Alright, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So this has been a busy day of recording videos. But like I promised, I am going to dive back into Alita and the Wild West saga, because after that introduction, there is no way I could kind of just give it up and wait till another week to dive deeper into it. So no big spiel or introduction before this read through. We're just going to dive straight into it with Battle Angel Alita, Chapter 32, Wild West Heroes. And you see Figure and Yorg watching from the side at all the damage and carnage that Alita's just created. You see, all the trucks the Mad Max riders were riding on just straight over to the side, overturned. One is on fire. And Figure's like, I don't believe it. That one woman did all this? And you see Alita carrying the brain of the leader of the little Mad Max group with her. And he's calling out, "Just kill me, damn you, kill me! If you don't, I'll ensure that you rue the day you left the mighty Knuckle." Oh man, I hurt too much from laughing too hard. Oh my god, this man's name being Knucklehead is on the level of the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy whose name was Taserface. Oh man, rue the day you left the mighty Knucklehead alive. Got that? I will be your doom. And you see Alita just looking at him with this, like, are you serious look on her face. And she takes this small knife and just cuts these two wires on his head. And you see him just screaming out in the void, and there's no sound coming out. She goes, "Shut up for a bit." And you hear a cry of, "Ah!" And you see the chief jumping out of his car going, run for it, bail out. The train's nuclear engine is going to blow." And Figure's like, "What?" And the chief, as he's running off, goes, "Take my advice, run for your lives." And you see alert. You hear a giant boom as the chief gets blown to bits, I assume. And you see Figure and Yorg just watching in surprise. And they go, "First bandits, now a meltdown?" And you see a meltdown is when a nuclear reactor loses cooling control and the core begins to melt from the heat. And you see number 5 robot going, "Within 15 minutes, the core will melt and react with the coolant, causing a giant steam explosion." And your Figure calls out, "Look, I can't escape to safety unless you take off this Renegun." And the bot calls out, "What a shame. The shock of the derailment busted our computer system, and now there's no way to undo the auto locks." And Figure's like, "Are you joshing me?" And Yorg's like, "Oh, no." On the outside, you see a zerr and ominous sounds as you see the gauges on the reactor starting to pop, and you see steam just pouring out of it. And Yorg calls out, "I don't want it to die." And you have Figure going, and then he just pats himself on the head, and then he just casually takes it back and sits down. He goes, "I got the worst luck. Not much you can do in the face of nuclear obliteration." And then you see Alita driving up after she's raided one of the Mad Max Jeeps, and she's loaded it up with her own gear. And she gives him the look. And Figure goes, "Go on and clear out, Alita. You're not one of us mercenaries. You're not stuck here." And you see Alita just leaping up onto the train car with one leap. And you see as her arms come apart, as her fingers come apart, and you see all these little wires coming out of it. And she slams Yorg down onto his stomach, and the wires go right into the rental unit. And you see a tick click as it's working away. And Figure's like, "Hey, give it up, it's gonna explode." And with a clank, Alita just takes off the rent-a-gun off of Yorg and throws it to Figure. And Yorg's like, I'm loose. And Figure's like, what? Who are you? And Alita goes, me? Just someone who made a deal with Mephistopheles. Ah, man, like, there has to be a quota for how many badass panels you can get. And you see, Mephistopheles is a capricious demon from Goeth's Faust. By making a deal with the demon, Dr. Faust gains youth and the ability to travel throughout time on grand adventure. And you see Alita, Figure, and York just making off with the Jeep as you see a giant kaboom as the train explodes behind them. And York's like, we're alive? Figure, am I really alive? He's like, haha, you sure are. And York's like, you saved my life. Thank you, thank you. And Alita's just not paying attention as she's deep in thought. And you see later that they've made camp between this little rock formation. And you hear, them stars tonight are right vivid, I tell you what. And Figure's like, huh? That there shooting stars moving all funny. And Yorg's like, what, you never seen a UFO before? And then Figure's like, say, what happened to Alita? Where'd she go? That old octopus lips. And Yorg's like, don't ask me. If you're going to try to hit on her, I'd save my breath and my life. And Figure just gets mad at him as he throws his can at him. And he goes, she saved your miserable hide and you're still going on about that stupid wives' tale? And Yorg's like, oh, I'm just saying. And you see Alita's just standing on the outcrop of rocks that they're taking shelter on, just staring at the moon. And you hear transmission coming in going, have you completely forgotten your tuned mission, A1? And she goes, but no ifs, ands, or buts. Carrying out your mission is the top priority here. We have been tracking Destiny Nova for years and years, and we finally found a clue. And you see the scene changing up to the city way up on Zalem. And you see Zalem's Ground Inspection Bureau, GIB. And you see GIB Director. Oh my god, come on. Oh man, he really had fun with the names in this art, didn't he? So you see the mysterious stranger that was talking to Alita when she was trapped in the trash compactor. His name is GIB Director Bigot Eisenberg. And he goes, it is a certainty that Nova is behind the Barjack mobile bandits. You must go and apprehend him. And she goes, roger that. And then you see Figure calling out to her from below. Hey, why don't you come down here and eat? And Alita looks down and goes, I have to leave right away, and I'm not taking you with me. You'll only slow me down. And Figure comes up behind her and is like, care to repeat that? You expect me to walk across the wilderness carrying a wounded man? And Alita's like, I do. And he's like, arr. He's like, I don't care if you're an angel of death or not. I don't take kindly to being overlooked like this. Come on, show me the best you got. And he gets in his little muscle man pose. He's like, yeah. And so Alita finally takes off her cloak, and she goes, you're awful feisty for a guy who just got his life saved. All right, I'm game. She slowly starts taking off all the armor and ammo she's carrying, and she's just wearing this black, jumpsuit. And he goes, don't assume that I'm a pushover just because I ain't cyberized, Alita. I don't think you realize what you've gotten yourself into here. And he goes, allow me to show you what I can do. So he grabs this little can of meat in his hand, and he kind of tears a little hole in it with his teeth. And then he tosses it up into the air, and as it comes back down, he goes, whoo, and he brings his arm up and he goes, wha, and catches it as it falls. And with a pump, you see the can starting to expand, and it goes with a swish, and you see in that little hole he made, you see a boosh as everything comes flying out of the can. And he goes, canned missile, as it goes flying towards Alita. And then Alita just casually dodges it from the side as the can goes flying by her. And she goes, he's all organic, yet you can use the Hertz Ahoyan? And then you have Figure going, heh, in my anti-cyber capo school, we call that a penetration move. And it goes, anti-cyber capo is a type of Asian art. While capo is said to be one of the oldest forms of martial arts in Japan, going back to Otomo no Kamaro in the Nara period, it was later co-opted and revived by Seiji Horibe for his fighting style capo. The word literally means bone method, but in this case the word bone means more like trick or knack, as in to have the knack for. So Figure continues, them cybers have too much armor to defeat barehanded using normal means, but my palms can send the impact through to the inside where it makes a downright mess of that soft, juicy brain. I've used this little trick to take down 35 cybers so far, and I won't stop until I've reached 1,000. And Alita just gets into a fighting pose as she goes, heh. And you have Bigot calling out through her speaker going, what are you doing, A1? Get moving. And you see him watching the conflict going down through, I assume, Alita's eyes. And you hear Figure going, heh, what's wrong? You seem freaked out by this. And Bigot goes, if he stands in your way, simply shoot him. And Alita goes, listen, Control, even I want to blow off some steam now and then. Cut me some slack. And Bigot's like, what's wrong? Pent up frustrations? And you hear the little note saying, the conversation between Control and Alita is on an internal line, so Figure 4 can't hear them. And Alita goes, what can I say? I've got a weakness for idiots like this guy. And she goes, oh, and then Bigot's just watching, contemplative, and he goes, all right, 3 minutes. She goes, thanks, Director Bigot. Yeah, Figure just watching, hey, what's the matter? Got a stuffy nose? If you're not going to take the first move, I will. And you see Alita just making an oh face as Ford just goes rushing in. So he's going towards her with a chop like this as he steps forward. And he goes, there, it's that mocking octopus mouth of hers I can't stand. And so Ford's trying to go in for a strike like this. And as he's doing it, Alita just goes in between his arms and just smacks a palm into his face and just breaks his nose. And he goes flying back as blood just geysers from his face. He's like, oh, that was so fast. Alita's like, what's wrong? And Ford's like, guess I earned that one. Now it's time to give you on my 100% best. And he goes, and he starts thinking to himself, I've got to get a step closer so that I'm in proper TI range. If I'm close enough for TI, I can't possibly lose. And you see him slowly starting to circle around Alita. And he goes, right here, as he stops in front of her. And he goes, TI is the effective range between combatants for a palm strike. In Capo, palm attacks stemming from the elbow are effective at an extremely close range. TI range is too close for punches which originate from the shoulder and cannot reach full power when the target is so close. So he goes out for another palm strike like this, and Alita just bats it aside. So Alita bats aside from here, and with her other hand gives him a tap right at his elbow. And he cries out with a yow! And then she pushes his hand down and goes in for a strike with her fist. And he blocks it. And she grabs that fist and then pushes it down again and locks both of his arms like this. And he goes, ah, my arms! And then she puts a fist up to his face and goes, ready to give up yet? And the next panel you'll see just a blur of movement as he goes, never! And he's dropped to the ground and he's trying to kick her out from below. And Alita just jumps out of the way. And she goes, well, I have to admire your tenacity. And he goes, suppose I have no choice but to show you my true power now. And you see back at the fire, the wind is just blazing. And Yorg is like, sure is cold out. I don't like the look of this. The god of lightning looks ready to strike. Brr, lordy. He's like, what's taking Figure so long? He better not be having fun with that devil woman. And you see another splat as a bruised figure just goes face first into the concrete or into the rock. Alita's just standing there looking over him, going, "Why don't you just give up and admit defeat?" And he goes, "Sorry to tell you, but I can't be beaten." And you see some more just panel shots as he's just getting repeatedly pummeled in the face. And he finally gets booted off. And then you see him in the last one as he's just like struggling and just like grappling Alita. And he's like, "Hey, you're all talk." And Alita's like, "What the hell? Do I have to kill you to win?" And he finally slips off and finally collapses after taking all that beating. Alita's like, "Man, what a cretin." Whew. And then you see the next panel, he wakes up at the start and he goes, "Yeah, this fight isn't over yet." And York just recoils, like, "She's already gone, man. What a heartless beast. She just left us out here in the middle of nowhere with only the tiniest bit of food and water." And you see York's just swollen and pummeled face. And he's like, "What? You ran out on me, Alita?" And you see a Vurum as Alita's just taken off in the darkness with the little Jeep. And she's thinking to herself as she's driving, "Figure 4, what a weirdo." And then Bigot calls out over the intercom and he goes, "Did you enjoy yourself, A1? Now clear out of that zone at once. We've got some extremely dangerous patterns showing up on the Doppler radar. It looks like the explosion of steam from the nuclear reactor and its resulting heat are hitting the western wind to form a supercell." Alita's like, "Radioactive rain?" And he's like, "No. I'm seeing rotation between the strong upward thrust and heavy rain. There's a cyclone brewing." And you see Doppler radar. Sound waves change in frequency depending on whether the source is approaching or distancing itself from the listener. This is called the Doppler effect. A Doppler radar interprets the movement of wind and clouds by calculating from the effect. In the next panel, you see this giant cyclone as this tunnel's coming down to the ground. You see this giant dust cloud being brought up by it. And you see Figure and York trying to hold on to the rocks as this dust cloud slowly encroaching on the little stone enclave. And he's like, "Oh, he's like, Figure." And Figure's like, "What a day. First bandits and a nuclear meltdown and now a tornado?" And he's like, "Ah," I was like, "We're goners." And you see a Foom as Alita goes up back in her Jeep and she goes, "Get in! Get moving!" And Figure's like, "No thanks, I don't need your simp." And York calls out, "Figure!" And then he grabs York and leaps into the truck and he goes, "Oh, fine, I'll decline your sympathy next time." Ugh, what a life. And Alita's like, "This is no time for being stubborn, you moron." He's like, "Hang on tight." And they take off as you see this giant cyclone right behind them. And just again, I love these spreads. And so you see the next page, Bigot Carl getting angry at Alita. He goes, "You fool! You dare defy my orders and risk danger for the lives of that surface trash?" And then Alita responds, "Zalemites aren't the only human beings, Director Bigot. I've been holding it in all along, but I'm giving you a piece of my mind today. Who do you think makes it possible for you to live safe and secure up there?" And Bigot's taken aback by Alita finally standing up to him. And he's like, "Silence, A1. And then Alita continues, "Who's growing your food, making your clothes, processing your waste, and shedding blood to fight for you? We surface dwellers are, and have had enough of taking orders from a cold-blooded monster like you." And you see Alita's just having tears in her eyes as she's saying all of this. And you see a roll as a huge boulders land smack right next to them. He's like, look at that huge rock. Are you paying attention? Evade it." Alita's like, "Huh?" And you see a gwomp as the boulder comes crashing into the side of the Jeep and sends it flying off into the cyclone. And you see Bigot losing contact with Alita, and he goes, "A1, come in, A1." And he goes, "Damn, how could this happen?" In the next panel, you see Alita's Jeep coming down with a giant crash and a boom as it lands in this deserted, barren wasteland where you see all these high-rise buildings that have been buried in the sand. And Alita comes awake with a boom, and she's like, ah! And then you see that she's been tied up with a piece of rope around her midsection, and she's been hanging off the edge of this broken and dilapidated building. And you hear someone playing some music, and you see you see you see that dumbass figure up on the ledge above her. He goes, hey, are you awake, my sweet? And Alita's like, hey, my harmonica. And you see figure going, we must be cats, because I reckon we got us them 9 lives. I woke up to find we were stuck right on this broken down high rise. If we waited any longer to leave that vehicle, we'd all be splattered. And you see that the vehicle was like, there's this little outcropping of this rectangular block that was sitting on the ledge. And the car had landed right on the edge of it. It was about to tip over. And you see figure making this stupid face as he's mocking Alita. And he goes, if you get close to me, you'll die young. And he goes, guess we've got better luck than you thought. And Alita's like, stop joking around and pull me up. And Yorg's like, come on, figure. And figure's like, what are you so afraid of? Whoever you really are, I'm tired of the way you help people and then abandon them whenever it strikes your fancy. I'm not going to be your plaything. You understand me? I'm sure cutting this wire will be child's play for you, but even for a cyber, a fall of this height will have dire consequences. So think about what you've done. And he is like, ugh. And she starts thinking to herself, ungrateful punk. He has no idea what I just did for him. And she calls out, Control, come in, Control. Damn, no signal. And she goes, hey, is Knucklehead, the leader of those bandits, still intact? And Figure goes, huh, now that you mention it. And Yorg's like, he wasn't in the car. And Figure's like, too bad. Looks like his brain must have fallen out at some point. And then you see later that evening, I assume you see that Yorg and Figure have made their way into the building. And you see that there's a shallow pool of water in the bottom. And Yorg's like, it's usually pretty easy to predict where water will be. And Figure's like, I see, a veteran of the desert. And Yorg's like, I was worried about radioactivity, but fresh spring water should be safe. And you see Yorg and Figure just making their way through the ruins, trying to scavenge up some food and seeing what else they can find. And Figure goes, look at the size of these ruins. There must be some food buried around here. And Yorg's like, well, maybe we'll find some fossilized canned food. And Figure's like, you've always got to look on the positive side. Yep. You see later that night, you're just slowly making their way through the desert holding onto a walking stick. He's like, I'm so hungry, I could even go for some fresh rattlesnake. And he spots a mice that goes with a squee. And he's like, ooh, it's dinner. And as he lunges for it and catches it, he falls into a pit hidden under the sand. He's like, Figure! And then you see... oh my god. Oh, come on. And you see this little sinkhole that he's fallen into is this underground storeroom, with just cans of food lining the walls, and even a few cases of what looks like some kind of drink in there. And Figure's like, oh, look, Yorg, what did I tell you? A whole buried store of food. It's a buffet, all you can eat. And Yorg's like, these cans are brand new. It's like, I don't know, I got a bad feeling about this. And you see a whoosh as the sun's coming up, and you see that Alita's still tied up below. And you see a rope with a little metal, you see a metal bar with a rope tied around the end dropping down. And you see your Figure slowly making his way down to Alita. And he goes, well, feeling apologetic yet? Even a cyber's got to get hungry, right? Here, got some yummy corned beef for you. Alita looks at him and goes, Figure, listen, I'm sorry. You're well within your rights to be mad at me, so I'll tell you the truth. I'm a member of Tuned A, servant of Zalem on a top secret mission, and I cannot disobey their orders. And Figure's like, you're from Zalem? Alita's like, nope. I once read a passage in an old book. If you want to own a slave, you either buy him with money or save his life. And it's thanks to Zalem that I'm alive now. Sometimes I wonder why I was even born in the first place. And so Figure's like, where are you from? Alita's surprised that he's asking her this, and she's like, huh? Oh, from? I'm from Mars, I think. I don't have any memory of it. And Figure's like, oh. And Alita's like, and where are you from? And he goes, heh, my hometown's a real nice place. It's called Alhambra. It's a little fishing village located in an old last century city that sank half into the water. Every few years, a big 20-meter sea serpent will wander by into the bay looking for seals. We all set out in our boats and compete to see who will land the first harpoon. And you see again just a figure of these fishermen going out to rescue or hunt down the sea creature. Alita's like, oh, the ocean? I'd really like to see that someday. I feel like I've been wandering around the desert for all of my life. And then Figure's just like, it'll rust your body up. Alita's like, ah, you tactless clod. And he goes, here, open wide, as he takes off a piece of the little corned beef he's eating and gives it to her. And you see, sea serpent is a marine animal often witnessed but never scientifically observed. It's said that once provided as much meat and oil as an entire whale. So Alita opens her mouth with an ah. And right before she can bite down on it, Figure just goes like and just chomps it in his own mouth. And he's like, yummy. Alita just gets mad and sad. And she goes, you jackass! And she just kicks him full in the face and sends him flying. He goes, ah, I'm falling. And then with the Hulk, Alita swings back and grabs him around the head with her knee and gets him in a leg lock. And she calls up Jorg. He's like, yes? And she goes, you better haul me up right now or you'll never see Figure 4 alive again. And Jorg goes, I hear you loud and clear, but what's an injured man supposed to do all by himself? Alita's like, he's got a point. Dang. He's like, just do something. He's like, but I can't. And you see someone watching her through 2 binoculars. And he goes, sitting ducks. And those clowns up there completely wiped out your unit, Knucklehead. So you see Knucklehead's found reinforcements as a bunch of tanks make their way up to the deserted area that they made their base. He goes, you see Knucklehead go, fine, laugh it up. He's like, haha, aim carefully now. Their fatal mistake was wandering into the purview of the Boiling Metal Relay Base, home to the greatest combat troops in all of Barjack. And you see fire as this long cannon gun just shoots off a shot. We get to chapter 33, Dog Eat Dog. You see a giant boom as a giant missile just goes and explodes right underneath where Alita and 4 are hanging. And they get sent flying off as the little building they're on gets destroyed. And you see on the next page, you call, you missed, moron, fire, fire. And you see the rest of the trucks also launching more of their own shots. And you see Alita and Jorg and Figure just falling with pieces of rubble falling behind him. Alita's like, huh, as she flexes and just snaps apart the bindings that are holding her. She goes, such a handful. And then she uses the bits of the wire. She launches herself off one of the pieces of the rubble and just grabs together Jorg and Figure and the guns and just wraps them together with the rope. And she goes, molecular wire. And she shoots out this little wire from one of her fingertips towards one of the other buildings and then uses it to swing towards it. Or she uses it as a grappling hook to launch himself safely on the dust. And she kind of snaps it off. And Jorg's like, what? I'm alive? And then as soon as they land, you see the building that she's gone just starting to collapse. And he's like, the wall! And you see the little Mad Maxians going, got him, Colonel, the first, got him, why can't I say Colonel? Colonel, the crushed flat. He's like, And then you see as the dust finally clears, you see Alita just pushing off this piece of rubble on top of her that she used to protect them. And you see Cough, like, wow, good thing there's a window right here. Oh my god, Figure has just the best luck. So Alita just casually pushes the rubble off the side, and she fires off a shot with the wham! And she wheen! And you see the leader just pushing out his arm like this, and you see the bullet just coming to a stop in his palm. Oh, never mind. You see a Gak, and as it just blows through his arm, just goes and explodes the head behind him. And he's like, huh? It's like penetrated by titanium augmented palm from that distance, and decisive enough to take the counter initiative in an instant. She's not one of the usual trained guards. And you see a boom, boom, boom as the guys continue, as the Mad Maxes continue to fire. And you see him going, the 5.7mm HV rounds the factory's trained troops use can't pierce this armor. It's like, what is it then? The only thing I can think of at this caliber is the HSA rounds. The Barjack Industrial Bureau is developing from ancient documents. So you see HV rounds are high-velocity, small-caliber bullets. After firing, the plastic sabot falls away, increasing penetrating power. And you see that the bullet is one of the... Just a quick look at the typical kind of look at the bullets there. You see the side view of the HSA rounds as the round has multiple special steel fletchets, needles inside that launch out of the round and penetrate once the bullet lands. High in stopping power, and it's high safety ammunition. And he goes, we can't take them lightly. Rumors of the wind speak of a Zalemite agent called the Angel of Death who's been sniffing around Barjack activities. If that's who we're up against, we must use every possible measure to defeat them, Sergeant. And he goes, yes, sir. So I don't think we got the leader of this boiling metal guys just yet. So the sergeant climbs in below into the little tank, and I have no idea what the fuck this is. So you see a bunch of human heads like screwed into what looks like the base of like a bottom of a light bulb, but it almost looks like a screw. I was giving you a glimpse there. One of them is crying out, I'm human scum. Another's crying out, I can't do this, I can't do this. And one's crying out, Mama, Mama. And you see inject adrenalizer. And you see in the back of their head, they've got almost like the jacket that they had in the Matrix, looking similar thing. And you see a needle plunging into there, just injecting them with some kind of liquid. And you see their eyes just bugging out of their skulls. They go, oh, oh. They are literal screws as you see them get pushed out into this robot body and screwed into the head. And the sergeant goes, Attend, Hut! You are now the mightiest soldiers in the galaxy, and nothing out there is going to stop you. He's like, yeah, I'm about to explode. He goes, get going, you hell beasts. And you see these guys just getting these like this armored, heavy mechanized looking, heavy mechanical suits. And then you have, what was it, Knuckle calling, I have a request, Colonel. He's like, And he goes, I have a score to settle with them for wiping out my unit. Please give me the chance to get revenge. And the Colonel goes, very well. I will give you a new team. I'm impressed by your determination. I shall allow you to take over a squad, make me proud, and avenge your defeat, Knucklehead. Knucklehead goes, I'm grateful for the opportunity, sir. And you see the Killzone. If anyone remembers the video game Killzone, that's what the little cyborg mechanical screwhead guys remind me of. So you have Knucklehead leading these guys going, move out! And you see them just spreading out and slowly making their way up to the city. And you see the Colonel going, move up troops on either side so they don't notice. He's like, yes, sir. I thought you were going to sit back until the signal, sir. The Colonel goes, ha, Knuckles just a decoy. If we're really up against Zalem agents, he won't stand a chance. It's the smallest men who make the biggest show of their pride. You see the next page, you see Alita's hunkered out behind a wall in one of the abandoned buildings. And she goes, the bombardment stopped. Think they're Barjack too? Figure goes, think they're Barjack too? Alita goes, who knows? My communications to Zalem are damaged, so I have no intelligence support. That's half of the advantage of being in tune. All I know is we're about to engage in a battle of life or death. Man, this is exciting. And she just gets this excited grin on her face. And York's just rolling around the ground going, no, 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 it's not, I don't want to get stuck in a firefight. I want to go back home. Alita just turns around with a grimace. She's like, shut your mouth, coward. And she's about to smack her hand down on his head. And Figure just loops his arm in to stop her arm. And she goes, Figure. And he goes, you can stop that right now. I'm not sure that I like your feeling of excitement here. Do you really enjoy killing that much? Ooh, something is up with Alita. Alita just has this manic grin on her face and she goes, yes, I love battle. I live for the moment when my body ceases to be just a machine and becomes a true part of my being. I feel my blood surging, my mind goes blank, my brain trips out and I have no time to think about my problems. And then Figure's just looking at her with anger and disgust and he goes, now I love me some fighting, even more than 3 squares a day, but I hate warfare. And I especially hate women who take part in it. Alita's just a little bit taken aback as she looks away. And Figure goes, Jorg's got a wife and kid waiting for him to come home. Have some consideration. He's not like you. He's got something to lose. Alita's taken aback again as she turns away and goes, well, whatever. Not my problem. I guess I was just a gun in my previous life. In the next page, you see that a little butterfly has landed on the windowsill. Alita hones in on the design on its wing pattern, and you see a boom. It's a da 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 da, and you see Knucklehead going, And then you see Figure and York just slam themselves back against the wall as Alita's just unleashed a flurry of bullets on the butterfly. And she's like, I hate those dryad butterflies. And you see Dryad butterfly, Minois dryas, is a brown butterfly with eyelets on its wings. It's in the family of 4-legged butterflies, and there are about 2,500 such varieties in the world. The author... The author also finds them extremely disturbing. Alita's like, oh man, I totally freaked out there. Better lay low for a bit. And I totally emptied my clip, dang it. And Figure's like, too late now. You see Knucklehead from below going, ha, what idiots. They gave away their position. I guess they really do want me to kill them. Well, I aim to please. And you see the soldiers calling out, Captain, it's dangerous to stand out in the open. And Knucklehead's like, but it's cooler this way. And you see the robotic soldiers going, psh, amateur, forget him. Yeah, let's go. And you see them rushing forward, and Knucklehead's like, hey, I didn't give you those orders. And they go, ignore them. So they fan out on either side of the doorway, and one throws in a grenade with a boom. And they rush in and start going through the building. And one's pulling a grenade just before he's about to throw it. Alita's hand comes crashing through the wall beside him and grabs the grenade. And she shoves it into his mouth and runs away. And he's like, whoa. And his upper body just explodes. Then Alita makes her way between the legs of another one and just sends her hand flying into his face and destroys his brain. And she sends, as one of the other machine guards turns around and starts firing on her. And she leaps up out of the way, bounces off the wall, and comes and lands on top of him. And just smashes a fist right through into his brain and smashes it apart in a spray of gore. And you again see just that manic grin on her face. And she goes, not there yet. And you see another one coming towards her. And she goes, more, until everything is blank, as she leaps towards him. And you see a Kachank as Yorg and Figure 4 have escaped through one of the vents to the outside. And he's like, well, what's the matter, Figure? Let's scram. And Figure is like, I enjoy freedom, and so I've been pondering the concept all through my travels. How far does my concept of freedom go? How robust is it really? Until now, I've believed that solitude was the way to freedom. But after seeing that lone wolf Alita, I reckon that ain't necessarily the only way. He goes, freedom's controlling the rudder to your own ship, so I'm going back. And Yorg's like, you fool, No one's here to see you act like a hero. They're monsters. Let them have the war. We don't need any part of it. And Figure dives back into the vent and he goes, just find somewhere else to hide for now. And Yor calls out, well, what Figure for? Don't leave me behind here, man. And you see an ulp as someone comes up from behind Yor, grabs his head, and sticks a knife to his throat. And you see back inside, Alita rails out with a roar as you see your brain just explode in a smattering of gore as one of the soldiers comes flying out as Alita drop kicks him through a wall. And the soldiers below are like, what the? And Alita lands below them, kicking out, and kicks their guns away. And she goes, ha! And she pulls out... this little metal thing, and the Damascus blade comes out of it, and it forms almost into like a huge, almost like a lance. And the soldier's like, ah! And they bust out with their own... So it's almost like Crocodile Dundee, where the soldiers have like a regular looking military knife. Alita's got this huge like lance looking one, doing her almost like her own impression of, that's not a knife, as she just lunges towards them and severs their arm. And she goes with a ha, and she does a kick and just splatters another one's head in a spray of gore. And she dodges backwards. One lunges towards like this. She dodges backwards and then spears him up and through the head. And just as she's finished, you see Knucklehead going, ha! That's far enough. You're dead meat. And he fires on her. And Alita dodges to the side just barely as the bullets just graze her cheek. And it goes and explodes into the soldier she was holding captive. And you see a thap. Oh no. So... yeah, glanced off Alita, and it looks like a magnetic force kind of punctured it off to the side and shot it off. And Knucklehead's like, what? There's a knife through my finger. And you see a small blade has severed one of his fingers that's holding the trigger. And Alita comes in with her giant blade and goes, shh, and just cuts his arm off. And he's like, what? And Alita's like, ha! And you see a blam, blam, blam as 3 shots are fired next to her, and Alita dodges back. And you see, stop right there, Wildcat. We've seen enough evidence to acknowledge your extraordinary combat prowess. But if you budge even an inch from that spot, this 30mm chain gun will turn you into Bolognese. Knucklehead's like, why, Colonel? I didn't call for backup. And then the Colonel's like, you'll live another day now, Knuckle. And you see all the soldiers just guffawing and laughing as Knuckles slowly wobbles his way back. And they smack him on the back and go, who's a lucky boy, huh? And he's like, guys, like, you used me as a decoy. And you see Alita's just looking a little bit unhinged. Her eyes are just gone completely wide. And she's got this angry look on her face. And the sergeant's like, I want to shoot her. I can't hold back anymore. And he seems like he's getting super aroused by this, as he's licking his lips. And the Colonel goes, there's no rush. Her brain holds intelligence value. And you see it, as one of the nearby carts, the guy manning the turret gun gets pushed off. And then you see Figure making his way in as he mans the machine gun and starts firing on the soldiers. And he goes, now, Alita. Alita drops 3 smoke bombs with a poof, poof, poof. And they start firing on her. And he goes, we've lost visual on the target. Damn it, lay down cover fire and pull back. And you see Figure just swirling around in the little round area where the turret is, just firing wildly. And he goes, you might be right, Salem. That factory and Barjack all got nothing to do with me. But I won't let you do as you please to Alita. And you see Alita's just dodging through the mist, and she goes, Spidey, you're up. And she touches these 3 little buttons on her chest. These little spider robots come out from under there. And you see all the mercenaries going, retreat, pull back. And you see the spiders just pulling this little string behind them as it goes. And you see a blamp. It's like, ah! And you see an explosion. And the soldiers cry, more enemies to the rear? When did they set up a trap? And you see Spidey is one of the special tuned armaments. It's a Zalem-designed insectoid robot bomb that's programmed to set up traps according to the terrain. It can also be commanded externally, allowing for a wide variety of tactical uses. And then Alita opens up another little pocket and goes, "Missile bees, fire!" And she's just got this ecstatic look on her face as you see these little missile bees firing out. And they just go land, boom, 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 onto each of the heads of the robots and explode them. And you see Missile Bee is one of the special tuned armaments. A bee-shaped cyborg missile has a fire and forget auto-aiming capability and can snipe with incredible accuracy. And you see the Colonel going, just looking in shock as his troops are getting decimated, going, so this is what they mean by the Angel of Death. And you see a shock as the sergeant's head comes flying towards him, and he's just looking super nervous as Alita lands in front of him with just that look on her face. And she goes, "Ha!" And then you see Yorg running up to her and going, "Wait, Alita!" And Alita stops her blade right before it strikes. And she's like, "Yorg?" And Yorg's like, "I know this man. He's an old friend." And the Colonel's just in a cold sweat. He's like, "Heh." And he grins and he just opens fire on Alita and hits her in the midsection and blasts her off the tank. And the Colonel's like, "Ha ha ha. A friend in need is a friend indeed, Yorg." And he's like, "Heh." And then you see Alita get surrounded as all the troops pull guns on her. And Forrest watching this, he's like, "Yorg, how could you?" And Yorg's like, I didn't do nothing wrong. I just settled for the safest option. You probably think I'm some kind of coward and traitor, huh? But it's easy for you and Alita to think that way. You're tough and brave. So this is what are the little weak guys like me supposed to do? For freedom's a right only for the mighty, and I'd rather submit to the caller than be free. And you see figure just crawling out, "Yorg!" As you see a boom, 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 boom. Oh, man. And you see all the guns just opening fire on Figure, and you just see him just getting shot up, and the building behind him just getting blown up. And it just comes crashing down on top of him as Alita yells out, "Figure!" And we've got to chapter 34, Land of Betrayal. Oh boy, alright. Okay, we're already at about 50 minutes for this video, but we're almost to the end of this volume as well, and I cannot leave it there. So we're going to keep powering on. So you see Alita is crying out, "Figure!" And Yorg just watching in shock as he sees the explosion in the ruins where Figure was. And Alita calls out, "Yorg, you traitor!" And she's just got this rictus grin on her face, and she's like baring her teeth at him. And Yorg's just completely losing it, and he's just shaking in fear. And the Colonel's like, "Step back." And he pulls out this heavy gun. And he's like, "That gun." And you see all the soldiers backing off, and you see Alita just screaming, Alita with tears streaming down her face. And she's like, "How dare you? I actually liked him." As she leaps towards him, and you see a boom, a giant boom, as her legs just get torn apart as the Colonel fires on her, and she goes flying back with a gank and a thud. And you see the Colonel going, "Bring out the restrictors." You see Alita crying out as they bring out these little machines, and they just tie her arms behind her back. For anyone that's seen Logan, the Wolverine movie, it's the same one that looks like when they tied up X-23. It looks like the same kind of restraints. And you have Yorg just crying out, shaking in fear. And the Colonel goes, "Sound off and get our numbers. Bring up the rear guard and let's resupply as planned." And you see Yorg sitting off to the side as you see all these trucks and tankers bringing up to the Colonel's area. And you see Yorg just downing a bottle of booze as he's sitting off to the side. And he's thinking to himself, freedom's control, or he's thinking back to what Figure told him. Freedom's controlling the rudder to your own ship. Yorg's got a wife and kid waiting for him to come home. Have some consideration. And you see Yorg just pulling out the picture of his family. He's looking at it. And he goes, "I'm sorry about this, Figure." And you see the Colonel marching up to him going, "What are you doing here, Yorg?" And he goes, "Colonel Basel." And he's like, "Listen, I know you're a proud descendant of the Green Berets, and used to lead a mercenary group on your own. But I heard you died in battle against Barjack 2 years ago. And you see that Green Berets are the elite special force of the American military. In this era, it seems to be considered the name of some powerful tribe of ancient warriors. And so Colonel, was it Bockel or Bosel? Bosel goes, "Heh, you know what they say. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em." Until I actually faced off against them, I thought Barjack was just some silly bandit startup. But I realized my mistake once I lost. I had come face to face with the grand ambitions of the great leader Den. We will burn the factory flat, bring the sky to the earth, throw off the yoke of Zalem, and create a nation of our own for the surface dwellers. And you see again this centaur-looking centurion man with these two giant arm pallets in this horned helmet carrying this giant spear in his hand. And Jorg's like, "Knocked out of the sky? It's crazy." And Basil's like, "Ha, it is indeed a thought that makes one's head spin, but I am enamored of it. And now I am determined to give up my life for the sake of that lofty ideal." He goes, "This must be fate. Join my side, Jorg, and let us fight for freedom together." And Jorg's like, "Well." And Basil goes, "We're about to lead a raid on the factory's Farm 22. And Jorg stops for a moment. He goes, "For Farm 22? That's where my family lives." And he goes, "But wait, Basil." And then Basil's like, "Is your leg wounded, Jorg? You better see a medic and get patched up." And he goes, "But please, hear me out." And you see Sergeant calling out to Knucklehead going, "Hey, Walnut Brain, did you get him oiled up?" And he goes, "Yes, sir, as ordered." "Then quit wasting time and pack up." And you see the convoy and caravan just making off into the distance. And you see that under the rubble where Figure supposedly died, you see tic-tac rubble as you see the rubble starting to shake. And you see the little rubble that the bottle of bourbon was sitting on starting to collapse, and an arm reaches out to grab it before it falls. Yes. Oh, yes. And there you see the proud back of Figure 4 stepping out from the ruggle, just draining that bottle of bourbon. And he goes, "Bwah! Back to life. Even bullets are so scared that they avoid me." Oh, I love this guy. And you see back in the caravan, you see Alita's been tied up and thrown off into a little compartment. And the sergeant's like, "Looks like she's out cold." And then the Basil's like, "Hey, just like Jorg said, this dryad butterfly did the trick." Oh, so you see that they've stuck her in this little cabinet, and they've stuck a dryad butterfly to the door so Alita can't stare at it. So he grabs her by the harness and goes, "Get up! Rise and shine, little angel of death. You'll get your full interrogation once we rejoin the main force. But I have 2 or 3 questions to ask before then." Alita's like, 48 hours. And he's like, "What? It's been over 48 hours since I lost contact with Zalem. I suspect that means they've cut me loose from the tuned program." And the ball is just smirking with an "ooh." And Alita's thinking to herself, "I have no hope left. Figure 4 is dead, and now they'll surely defile my brain before they finally kill me. But on the other hand, if we're going to join the main Barjack force, then perhaps..." And she goes, "My primary mission in Tune was to capture the escaped Zalemite scientist, Desti Nova." And the sergeant's like, "Professor Nova? That kooky strategist?" And Balls is like, "He's Chief Den's favorite. I see." And Alita's like, "And the only reason I'm in Tune is so I can see Daisuke Ito, who's Nova took away from me." You see the sergeant calling out, "Who's Ito?" And Balls is like, "A Zalemite doctor who works for Nova." And you see Alita just looking in surprise as she finds out that Ito's alive. And she goes, "He's alive? Oh, how I want to see him. I would let myself be a prisoner only if it meant seeing Ito again. They can take my body and leave only the brain even. I don't care about freedom." The sergeant's like, "What's with her? She's crying." Ha ha. And Balls is like, "Humanity is so frail." And you see a blam as the sergeant's head just explodes in a spray of gore. And Basil's like, huh? Oh, man, come on. And you see Knuckles standing there, and Basil's like, Knuckle, have you gone mad? And Knuckle goes, ha, this is what you get for humiliating me. Payback's a bitch. And he just unloads on the sergeant and kills him. And he grabs Alita and goes, ha, I'm getting you out of here, Alita. And Alita's like, no, you idiot, don't. How can you do this to me? I was finally about to see Ito. And she's like, Ito. And Knuckle just smacks her head to get her, knock her out. And he goes, shut up, what's wrong with you? Bawling and wailing like a little child. Is this the same angel of death that struck such terror in me? Have you no shame? And you see, the colonel has been shot. Mobilize the Socketeers. The Socketeers. You're like, mobilize the Socketeers. Adrenalizer. And you see that as they get injected, they start foaming at the mouth. And they die. And you see, what's wrong with them? And then you see someone going, I refilled all those syringes with cleaning solution. And he's like, what? And you see Knucklehead coming around the corner and he blows apart their heads with a shotgun. And you see some more soldiers outside going, you turned traitor on us, Walnut Brain, die! And you see as they fire, the guns backfire and explode in their faces. And he goes, ha! I sabotaged all of your guns! Oh my god. Then you see all the trucks in the convoy just exploding. As Knuckles just got the one little sand buggy that's left, and he's just giving them the finger. He goes, ha ha ha, burn, baby, burn. Alita's like, you saved me, Knuckle? And he knocks her off the buggy into the sand dune. And he goes, don't be mistaken. I just didn't want those other scumbags to kill you first. Ha, I've been really looking forward to this. And he pulls out a gun. We have Chapter 35, Rainmaker. You see, Barjack was just a title, an easy banner to stand beneath. You see, all I really need in life is to destroy machines and fire guns. I don't care who makes that possible. And so he goes with the whip and he throws out a little blade to her. And he goes, this is a 28 millimeter HE round capable of piercing 10 centimeters of solid armor. And you see him just putting this massive ass bullet into this gun. And he goes, but there's only one shot. See the high round explosive, the front of a shaped charge explosive is hollowed conically so that when it hits the target, all of the energy is focused and directed toward the point of the cone, utilizing a property called the Monroe effect. The penetrating effect of the HE round is roughly proportional to the diameter of the shell. So he goes, come, give me your best, Alita. We are much alike. I could sense it like a bolt of lightning when we first met. Ha ha! Feels good to lose control, doesn't it? You want to be nothing but another nameless lone beast just racing through the wilderness as far as you can go. Then let's venture forth together into that blank sheet of the world, a world of total freedom. And you see Alita going, ha ha hoo! Oh, so he's giving her back the giant spear blade carrier that she had before. And so she grabs it and again with that manic grin on her face, just starts slowly scuttling her way towards him. He goes, that's right, come to me! Ha ha! And you see some music coming through the air. And you see a giant whomp as a fist comes flying smack into Knuckles' brain. And he goes, so that's it. That's your freedom? That's real shallow of you. And you see my boy Figure 4 coming up with Alita's harmonica. And he goes, if the captain of the ship is going to take control of his rudder, then he doesn't very well need much of a brain. And he does a whoom as he goes forward with a knuck palm strike. And you see with the pwah as he makes Knucklehead's brains explode. And he goes, made it through. Okay, Figure 4 does not have the right to be as badass as he is in this panel right now. And you see him slowly playing the harmonica as he makes his way up to Alita. And she's staring at him in shock. She goes, Figure? And he goes, heh, I think I've got much better with this harmonica. And she's just crying out. She's like, I don't believe it. You're alive, you dolt. And he's like, here's your harmonica back. Sorry about all the scratches. And she's like, no, it's yours now. Oh, come on. And she leans in for a kiss and figures just like, oh my god, it's happening. And you see as a stray of bullets just fires right in between the cock blocking figure. And you have, so, Knuckles dead. Even the insects have souls and feelings, as they say. It is the shame of a lifetime that I failed to heed the warning signs in his demeanor. And you see a floating colonel with his brain coming out of what looks like a little bit of a UFO. Just showing you right there. And you see him with one of the soldiers that's left going, nothing can be allowed to stand in the way of the realization of our lofty ideals. Not even a bug. Kill them. And then you see Jorg's face inside of the machine. And they're like, Jorg! And you see tears streaming down his face as he turns around and he starts firing on the colonel. And he goes, no, you too, Jorg. And with a beep, he sends Jorg's head flying. And you see that Jorg's been turned into one of the screws. And he goes, you fool, why don't you get it? True freedom and equality can never come to the surface as long as Zalem floats above. We are standing up for humanity and fighting a war for true progress. And as he fires on Alita, she drags Knucklehead's corpse in front of her to stop the bullets. And he goes, the revolution is not yet complete. Join the struggle, comrade. And then Alita fires back, shoots the giant bullet at him and explodes him with a giant kaboom. And you see later, you see Figure kneeling on the sand, cradling Jorg's head. And he goes, forgive me, Figure, Alita, forgive me. I'm no good, too weak. Now I don't even have the right to see my wife again. Just... And then Figure just starts crying as he cradles Jorg's head to him. And Alita watches. It looks like the next day they've stuck a gun in where they buried Jorg. And you see as you see this giant sandstorm making its way through the desert. And you see Figure at the head of the little Figure and Alita on the little sand buggy, faces covered up with goggles on, making their way through the sandstorm. And he goes, damn, can't even tell which direction we're moving. And Alita's like, I'm telling you, Figure, we should just stay put. And you see the next day they've abandoned the dude buggy. And Figure is making his way through the desert with Alita on his back. And they're running out of water. Alita's like, Figure? He's like, what? And she's like, I overheated. These soft machine bodies are weaker to heat than flesh is. And you see the hissing as Alita's just heating up. And she goes, leave me and go on. I can't stand the thought of you dying trying to carry me. And he goes, no can do. Alita's like, won't you be more free if you leave me behind? He's like, I'm also free to walk with the with the woman I love on my back. I'm free to go left or to go right. If I end up collapsing, then that was where I was fated to go. And he goes, but I will admit that my throat's a bit dry. Maybe it's time to see if praying will help. And you see him playing the harmonica, and Alita's like, what's that? He goes, song I learned from a rainmaker when I was a kid. And you see him trudging along, and he finally collapses to his knees, and he goes, yup, this is rough, as he falls to the side. Alita comes up and goes, Figure. And he goes, sorry, because that prayer didn't exactly work out. And she straddles him, and she goes, it's fine. And right when she's about to kiss him again, you see a giant splat. And you see a giant whoosh as it starts just pouring rain. He's like, ha ha ha, it's rain. And you see an ouch as something hits Alita on her head. He's like, what's that? And you see a fish landing on her. And then you see back in Bigot's headquarters. It's like, what is this? Did you perform some kind of weather manipulation, Director? And Bigot's like, I did nothing. I was merely observing out of curiosity as to how Alita's life would close the book on her stubborn rebelliousness. And the doctor next to him was like, then I suppose you lost, Director. Go and rescue them. And then Bigot goes, Dr. Russell, do you believe in fate and miracles? And the Zalemite doctor next to him goes, of course I do. as you see just a rain of fish landing on Figure and Alita as they're just laughing their heads off. Oh boy, end of volume 3. And just a little bit over an hour. Alright, so I hope you all enjoyed the bizarre end to what I assume is the end of that Wild West journey. So yeah, I'll have to, next weekend I'll probably have thoughts. I'll put out a review video before I dive into volume 4. So I haven't made up my mind. I'll try to do what I did for the last one. I'll just try to do a separate review video before diving into the next volume. That was an extremely fun arc. I have absolutely no idea where it's going to go, and from there next. Figure was absolutely great, but it's super late here. I'm super tired, so I'm going to sign off with this. This is Ash. I'll talk to you all later and see you again next weekend.